Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, folks? What's up, Navy Plum? What's up, LB? JT here. What's up, Trade Wade? Good to see ya. Good morning to everybody. Let me get my screen sharing started. I can do it all by myself, I swear. All right, let's go. We've got that rolling. All right, cool. I think we're good to go. Let me get over to the chat here. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning to you. What's up, Sazerac? Scissor? Good morning to you. What's up, Sydney? Good to see you. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's Thursday, January the 8th, early into 2026. JT here with another Chart Talk Live brought to you by Xtrades. I hope you all are ready to go. What's up, Serge? Good to see you in the mix. What's up, Sydney? Morning to you too, buddy. All right, so let's dig in. Let's start talking about what we're seeing here in the markets. And then we will get to some trade plan recaps. And of course, we will work on some new trade plans here live together as a team. So I look forward to hearing your input, your questions, your ticker requests. Feel free to start dropping any of those in any of the chats, whether you're watching on YouTube or Discord. Keeping my eyes on everything, everywhere, all at once. All right, so let's dig into this. Let's talk about it. So markets continue to push higher. We got a pretty interesting rejection after breaking over all-time highs there yesterday. On ES, we finally printed a new high up there. Took us all the way up to 7,000 plus what 7,675. So 7,006 and some change, or 7,000 and some change is really kind of what that equates to in the bigger picture. Ran right up to that key resistance here on NTS, gave us a little sweep above and then wicked below, pulled back, got the short signal, so things have continued to pull back. But now we're seeing this inverse play here. So for those using NTS, this is something that you probably already know to look for, but just to explain it to folks who are kind of newer to this, while we do expect these levels to act as resistance, as long as this flag is bearish, they can also certainly act as support. You can see we've got three different levels before we get to the key breach level, before things roll over bullish or bearish. So we rolled things over bearish, came up, tossed. I'm gonna say tested the top, but that came out as tossed. Tested the top of that bearish flag there, pulled back, but now we tested the bottom of that bearish flag and found it as support. So that can happen sometimes. If things are going to try to roll this over, that's what you want to see, is for these bearish levels to start to act as support. Man, I'm having a hard time getting my words out here this morning. So anyway, pulled back, got that bounce test, nice full range covered there by NTS in that bearish flag. So it's continuing to try to push up, trying to reclaim the 200 SMA, trying to get over VWAP. Do have some bearish momentum to fight through that it's rejecting currently. We did have, I'm guessing, some data just came out at 8:30 this morning. Typically that would be like CPI and stuff like that, but who knows with the current government, the current administration. We've had total sets of data missing entirely in some cases. So that doesn't necessarily make it easy. Sorry, just for some reason I'm logged out of my trading economics account. So I'm just getting logged in there to see what kind of data we got this morning and how significant it is or was. Export is probably, yeah, non-farm productivity, probably jobless claims came in at 208,000. Market was expecting a little bit higher. Previous reading was a little bit lower. Jobless claims going up would give some fuel to the Fed to continue to cut rates. So I'm guessing that because those jobless claims weren't in line with or higher than the consensus expectation, that kind of diminishes the case for continuation of the rate cuts, which the market wants to see, obviously. So while overall that data is somewhat good, we may be in a good news is bad news is good news type of cycle where we want that, or the market, I should say, not we as a society, but the market really wants um, more ammunition, more reasons, more justification for the Fed to cut rates. So, um, kind of a lukewarm reaction to those fairly decent jobless claims numbers, long story short. So, that's kind of what we're looking at with the markets again. As long as we're holding over 69.51, that is where the 200 SMA is at. Really, I'd like to see ES clear over this 69, 62, 75. So if we're watching that level for kind of a confirmation of upside opening back up and potentially taking us up to that 69.94 to 7,000 range, um, that's what I would kind of be looking for as confirmation. But of course, we will have the SPY plan in place right around market open this morning. So refer to those levels as kind of your ultimate guide for when that trigger happens and we do potentially open up that room to the upside. All right, let's get to our trade plan recaps and then we'll get to these new ticker requests. NBIZ, this one, nice bounce and push off of our put entry level. It was the low of that candle. Let's see how accurate we were. 90.94. We were 5 cents off that exact low there. So not my worst level for sure. But nice bounce off that put entry support. Took us all the way up over the call entry, got a little bit of a back test there, and then we had what can happen sometimes. I know we've talked about this in the past, but it bears repeating again. We get very close to our PT1 test there, really not quite as close as I would want to see that hit 102.35. That's 30 cents off. That is a little bit too far for me to say that was really good touch on that move. But anyway, broke above, back tested, pushed up toward that 102.65 and then rejected. Now we're back down below the call entry. Certainly looks like if we do get another break of the call entry that things should continue higher. That'll get us over this bearish momentum right there. 200 just crossed above the 333 SMA here on NBIZ. Flags bullish, long signals, the last signal we're seeing on this one. So I think NBIZ is getting ready to get some legs. I think it just needs to get back over 97.86. And then we should start seeing some of these price targets hit. But so far, this plan is still in effect. No stop outs or average downs needed at this point. Just, things don't always move straight in our favor just because we took an entry, right? Remember that downside and being able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable while we're riding out some of that downside is key to becoming a better trader. So just keep that in mind as we kind of continue to navigate 2026 in our trading careers as a whole. Intel, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Intel with a big move yesterday. They had some nice developments with their new generation of chips and getting those rolled out and starting to take orders, full production ramping up. I think that also kind of helps buoy hopes that you'll see other chip developers start to use Intel's foundries for chip development and production to kind of reshore some of that stuff back here in the US to avoid tariffs and other reasons that are floating out there, like potential military actions and consequences in Taiwan and what that would look like. So I think Intel, rightfully so, had a big move yesterday, pushed us all the way up to PT2 plus right off that call entry level, gave us a back test of PT1 here this morning and one yesterday, and looks to be trying to use that as support now to push higher. Bullish momentum, bullish flag there, long signal. So yeah, this one's looking pretty solid across the board. Let's check this on the hourly. I just realized it was on the 4-hour. Yeah, hourly looks just as good, adding some confluence of support down there at that call entry. So Intel looking very strong and looking like it wants to continue maybe up to PT3 today if the market allows it. if we don't have a kind of a super bearish day essentially. But Intel could still show good relative strength, big picture against the market. So keep that in mind. All right, NKLR, this one has stayed in our range for the most part until it broke down to the put side of this plan. Gave a little bit of a bounce after hours there, Monday or Wednesday going in, or Tuesday going into Wednesday. Sorry, has pulled back down below that. Does have the 333 and the 200 down here with a nice confluence. In fact, multiple confluences down there at $5 even. So I'd keep that level on watch if you're going short on this one based on the plan. I'd scale out pretty heavily and aggressively there at $5. Also might be a good spot to look to switch back to the long side and try to play this bounce off of the $5 mark for NKLR to make a push. I do expect nuclear names to have an overall good year this year, but it's not, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go running out the gate. All right, so that does it for our trade plan recaps. Let's get to some of these new ticker requests. Sydney wants to take a look at Tilray, ASST, silver. Yeah, I was not happy with silver not holding our demand zone this morning, hitting the stop out on those shares, but it's all right. Keep your wins big, keep your losses small. We had a good entry. I mean, we were up 2% or something like that with almost no drawdown. It's just that entry didn't hold overnight. That happens, but we had the right entry. It just didn't hold. So mark that up to the plans that were just invalidated because the market decided to pull back more than we expected. All right, so what are we doing? Tilray. Tilray, for those who aren't familiar, is in the cannabis sector. Lots of kind of catalysts happening in that space lately with Fed reclassification, hopes that the Fed will actually legalize cannabis, which I knew was not in the cards, but it's easy to say that in hindsight. I'm not sure if we'll, I think it'll continue to be pushed down to the state level. I don't know why the Fed is so leery of just going ahead and making this easy for everybody. They are still able to collect tax revenues, but you could have like banking start to benefit from all that cash flow. Right now, they pretty much have to trade and keep their money in cash. I mean, they can take credit cards and whatnot, but I don't think that they can make deposits or do anything with a FDIC insured bank, at least, because you have the federal depositors insurance in the mix, and so that creates a new set of rules for those banks as far as dealing with an industry that is technically still illegal in the eyes of the Fed. So, love to see all that get cleared up and just, like I said, make this easy for everybody. I don't know how old these Tilray levels are or what I was even looking at. Last time I looked at these, I did cut my trading teeth on MJ stocks when I first started trading many years ago, and everybody thought it was going to get legalized back then. Never happened. That was like 10 plus years ago. So I'll put that in the for what it's worth category. All right, let's see. Where do we have some good levels at? Tilray. You guys want or at least the last time I checked, he was still very focused and doing very well with these. If you want a recommendation on who at Xtrades is the person for you to follow when it comes to any kind of cannabis sector trades, highly recommend paying a lot of attention to what Omar G is sharing when he's sharing alerts and insights. It's really specialized in this particular space. So he knows a lot more than I do at this point about this particular sector. Shout out to Omar. All right, where are these levels at? What's up, Gardle? Good to see you. Just saw your avatar in the mix over there. Hope you're doing well. It's current all-time lows. That would be good to know. All right, any other interesting levels here on the weekly? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, actually. I think there's something there. I don't think it's a weekly level, though, just based on what I'm seeing. Kind of the same thing here. Probably there as well. All right, I think that puts us, actually, that could be a good weekly level. I might take that back. Yeah, I am going to take that back, actually. That is a good weekly level. Let's see. Yeah, good one there, too. All right, cool. Let's get over to the, hang on, sorry. Gonna continue to say let's move on and then keep looking at the same time frame. All right, here we go. Let's dig in. It is very close to this ascending trend line that's coming off those lows, so that's of interest. Kind of makes it an interesting potential setup for a long-term equity hold as long as that trend line is valid. Let's see if we can't figure out where these two levels are and what they are. I think that is probably a little bit lower. Yeah, it's down right about here. Okay, that looks pretty solid. All right, almost done with this daily chart, I promise. I want to be thorough, though. All right, let's go to the 4 hour. Let's see what we can see. Let's start to get this plan in place. Hmm. There and one. All right, let's get this locked in here. No, I've taken my sweet ass time with it, but hopefully it will have been worth it. Question is, where do we get a good breakout? Let's throw this on the chart. There we go. All right, short 200 SMA overhead there. Sorry, I want to flip to the hourly as we plan this. Still short, still bearish. 200 dipping below the 333 there. That's also not a great sign. So it's just a little bit lower than where we had it on the 4 hour. Yeah, it's pretty solid. All right, my only real big question on this one is, where does the downside get interesting? Or do we have some decent risk reward? The answer, yeah, we're getting pretty close to it actually, and this could give some room to the downside to at least get a PT in before we hit trend line. Below that would break the trend line. Be surprised if a break of that trend line didn't take us down to about this $7 level. There is still a gap to fill. Take us down. Pretty close to the 650 level. I think that gap fill could be the end of any downside move. Could reverse things off of that. Good stop loss average down right there. All right, upside. NTS has it a little bit earlier, but yeah, I'd want to see this 983 level out of the way. Sorry, Sorry, I'm just looking at this as a potential stop loss level. Yeah, that works. Weekly level. Yeah, could be just a little bit lower. Right there. Yeah, that looks good. Smart place to start scaling out, moving up your stops. Over that. It's where we open up, I think, a bigger upside move. Could take us up to 1096. And over 1096. Yeah, this level is just a little bit lower. Right about there. Yeah, that looks good. All right. Let's do it. Yeah. Takes us to 1029, 1096, 1151. Stop at 950. Whoops. Hey, what's up, Veritas? Good to see you. Sorry, I just happened to glance over at the YouTube chat. Hope you're doing well. A little focused on my charts here when you probably chimed in there. We don't want to use a shared stop loss. That looks good. Let's get these levels cleaned up and organized. There we go. All right, that should give us a nice picture of this trade plan for us to publish. So here comes your Tilray live stream plan. And let me get this over in the elite chat. Oops. Let's go. That's it. In place. Yeah, that's good. Give it a week. All right, so let's talk through this real quick. What are we looking for here on Tilray? We are looking for a break over 983. That should bring targets at 1029, 1096, and 1151 with a stop loss average down at 950. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 882. That should bring price targets at 782, 703, and 650 with a stop loss average down at 929. Those are your Tilray live stream plans. Let's go. All right, let me get back to the chat. What was our next one? ASST. Penny stock with lots of volume. What is ASST? What do they do? They buy Bitcoin. One-year price target $1.50. Bitcoin Treasury. Interesting. Apparently, I've looked at this one before. We did an upside only plan for it. It looks like it, and honestly, I see why there's not really any downside to be played on this one. And it's rejecting that stop loss average down level. I guess my only question on this one is, do we flip that stop loss average down to a call entry? Let's zoom out on this a bit. We're going to want to look very big picture. Yeah, I may have been off a little bit too on that. Looks like I did this back in November of last year. Gave us the upside break, but didn't ever finish that move. All right, so we're going to do this for an upside only plan because, again, there's really, at $1, there's not really any downside to account for. I would make an adjustment, though, to that level. I would have it a little bit higher. In fact, I'd have it even a little bit higher than that. Like right there. So that can act as a call entry at this point. So 118. Yeah, I'd be watching and taking some profit at this level right here at 133. Again, that doesn't seem like much, but that's about 15 per, well, just less than, a little less than 15% move. Considering we're talking about a penny stock, we don't do a lot of penny tickers here, but it's all right. Good to change it up every once in a while. This would be a good one to just, I don't even know if it's optionable, but if it's not, just load equities on it. 133, and then there's also potential resistance here at 144. Over that, I think, is where the bigger move toward this recent double top happens. Takes it up to 168. So that's what I'd be looking for on this one. Oh, duh. We need a stop loss average down, though. That I would have. Yeah, right at 104. Yeah, could be a good one to watch. Throw a few, 100 to a grand into it and just see what happens. And it's kind of like a lotto trade, of course. All right, so let's get this. This is going to be calls only. Looking for a break over 118. That should take us to 133, 144, and 168. Stop loss average at 4. The rest doesn't really matter. Picture of it. Here we go. Here comes your ASST live stream plan. Silver in the elite. Chart Master, I saw that notification from you. Fix that. All right, let's get to one more. Let's take a look at silver SLV. And really, how I would recommend you look at trading SLV is by looking at silver futures. Playbook. Which is SI. So this is where we bought down at the bottom of this demand zone. Tried to give us a nice bounce, but obviously that failed. This demand zone is now gone. We did reject the supply zone that we've been watching from our original plan back here. Took us all the way up to the top of that supply zone. Now we're testing this trend line, and that's going to be pretty key for it to hold if silver is going to make a push. So I'd be keeping, in fact, kind of looking like a really interesting buy the dip opportunity there, although not as much confluence as the last time we tested it with that demand zone down there. So if that doesn't hold, silver could be heading back to the 69 to 70 area. But let's take a look at the actual SLV chart, since that's what we would be planning off of. That's kind of a hypothetical trend. It does have the requisite, well, what did I just delete? Delete this. So there we go. That trend line is no longer valid. Silver does have a gap to fill. Takes us down to about 66.48. Be watching that as a good potential buy the dip level. Set your stops there at the top of what I'm guessing was that demand zone. What's up, Baby Yoda? Good to see you. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. So let's plan this out as a buy the dip setup, right? We're looking for this to come back down to 66.48 to buy that dip, stop at 64.79. If that doesn't hold, first target I have up here at 69.19. Second target pretty clearly at this 70.89 level. We've got a gap entry up here at 72.41. But by the time we test that, I think it could be, yeah, let's go for the gap fill on this third price target. Takes it up to 73.47. All right, so here we go. Here's our silver buy the dip plan. I don't think it really needs a downside plan, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I'd be looking to buy anywhere close to this 66.48 level play it for the upside to those targets. Stop loss average down there at 64.79. So we just happen to be doing calls only again. It's good. We've also got the 200 SMA right there. Yeah, silver's looking like a good buy the dip setup here to me, personally. But that's just my take. All right, let's go. Actually, let me just copy. Let's also get rid of that. There we go. Copy link. Here comes your SLV. Buy the dip plan. And let's get over to the elite chat. So let's get this set up. Create alert. Trade pilot. That's cool. Right. 1600 cents. Create. All right. So let's talk through this real quick, and then we're going to call it a morning for this morning's Chart Talk Live session. What are we looking for here on silver? We're looking to buy the dip anywhere close to this 66.48 level. Again, you got the 200 SMA coming up here, so that's going to probably add to the support case down near this level. So I'd look to enter there at about 66.48 or anywhere close to that off the 200 SMA. That gives us targets at 69.19, 70.89, and 73.47 with a stop loss average down at 64.79. That is your SLV by the dip plan. And this is your Chart Talk Live for Thursday, January the 8th, 2026. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will get back to work on finding more plans, more setups, and better things for us to execute on as we move through this year. So, as we always say here on Chart Talk Live, plan your trades, trade your plans. Remember, we're looking for profits, not perfection. So keep those wins big, keep those losses small. Go out there and get some green. Have a fantastic day. I will see you all in the chats, and I will see you here next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Until then, take care. Have a fantastic day, everybody.